This discussion is based on the discussion in Chapter 17, page 55 on sustainable growth. One of the problems that we can come across when estimating a model is what to put in for our growth rate, our G. And one of the ideas that we have around it is something called the sustainable growth rate. How much can we increase our dividends? How much does our company grow by? And how much of that is what we would call sustainable growth? Here's the idea behind it. Our growth really comes out of our earnings. Our ability to grow comes out of our profit and our earnings. And we can do one thing we can do two things. We can either pay out dividends with those earnings, or we can reinvest. The more we put in here, the less we have to reinvest. And the theory says that the more we reinvest, the more we can grow our dividend. By taking more dividend now, we sacrifice growth in the future, and we sacrifice even large dividend later. So how do we find a reasonable rate at which we can sustain the growth of the dividend and increase the size of the company to have even further growth? We start by looking at the return on investment, or the ROE. Now, the ROE reflects, in a sense, investor percentage return. In theory, our ROE every year we could pay out as a dividend, but we'd be sacrificing future growth. So what we do is we simply ask the question, how much of this are we putting back into the company? Remember, our earnings per share, we can either retain them or we can pay out a dividend. So if this is everything we would have, if our ROE is everything that we would have available possibly for the investor, we simply ask the question, what percentage is being retained? So we multiply this by 1, take away the amount that we're paying out, which will tell us how much is being retained. Now let's look at an example on page 551. So we're told for this company, for Empire Company, that its ROE is equal to 9.84%. On the other page it has it as 9.83, but we really can do. We'll use the, on page 551, 9.84%. So usually what we take is an average ROE. 10 years is often a good estimate for that. So our ROE is equal to this. We know that they have been paying out their dividends at a ratio of 18 cents for every dollar they take in. So a dividend payout ratio of 18.81%. What growth rate would they be able to sustain and still be able to effectively grow the company and ensure future growth? growth of the dividend. Well, this is what the sustainable growth rate is going to tell us. It's going to say that we get an overall return per year on our equity of 9.84%. Of that 9.84%, 8.81% comes out as a dividend. The rest gets reinvested to help grow the company. So that would indicate that we are putting out of the total return we get, that we are putting 7.99% back in. So we would estimate that this is an indication of future growth. And that's an example of the sustainable growth rate.